Isn't it funny how things turn? There's Finn, a Rangers fan. Gerrard, Beale, Van Bronckhorst, all woeful appointments. All woeful appointments. Gerrard won them the league, but he was a woeful appointment apparently.
No, he wasn't a woeful appointment.
Untested. Rangers need to get a manager who has actually managed at the highest level. That's easier said than done.
Yeah, but Celtic have managed to achieve it. And of course, they're coming from a similar position in terms of they're the leading club in Scottish football. They're winning the leagues, and they're on a run of significant success. But their revenues are not that much bigger than Rangers. So what are Rangers doing? You make these appointments. You take somebody from the second tier of English football that's been doing a job for 5 minutes because he is the one at this moment in time that looks good on paper. And because you've got some belief in your mindset that once upon a time he was effective in a different incarnation, you need to make grown-up appointments. What those grown-up appointments look like right now, off the top of my head, I wouldn't know. But if I was sitting at the Rangers boardroom, I would know, because that would be my bleeding job to know.
I was just going to say, you would know. You say, I don't know. You would know.
For the purpose of this
You'd
conversation.
Make it your business to know.
For the purpose of the conversation, I've employed a lot of managers. I've got a lot of them wrong. I got a lot of them right. So the point is that you know what you need. I knew what I needed at certain times. I knew Warnock would do a good job. I knew Dowie would do a good job. I knew that Steve Bruce would do a good job. I took a leap of faith with other guys. I knew Peter Taylor. Even if you don't believe me, you can read it in my book. I looked at Peter Taylor and thought, why am I taking Peter Taylor? Because I talked myself into it. He's England under 21 coach. He can open the door to us being able to get other players on loan. He used to play for Palace. He was a very flamboyant player playing for us. Maybe we can play a brand of football that will get the fans on side. Even though in the background I'd said 18 months previously to the Hull chairman, I don't want you on manager, he's just the coach. Yeah, I still made that decision. So you make the wrong decisions at the wrong times. Yeah. But Rangers, to me, doesn't feel like it's a club that's run from the top in the way that a club that's got an elite standing should be.
Right.
That's what I think is the
fundamental
problem.
And those are strong words, and I think many of the hardcore Rangers support would absolutely concur with that. Alex Crook's going to join us, our colleague here at talkSPORT, in just a couple of seconds, and he's going to tell us about names in the frame, and as well as that, he's got a bit more intel on the situation this morning. Colin, big Rangers fan, good morning. What's happening at the club?
Good morning, Jim and Simon. I'll get straight to the point right away, Jim. The even thought of Kevin Muscat makes me even worse than the Michael Beale situation. But anyway, the situation being, for years, the Rangers board have kidded the fans on. There's an American investor, there's a Chinese investor. Where is he? Because no matter who goes in there as manager, he will do nothing with that set of players and that setup. And the fact that they offered Graeme Souness a mediocre role in there makes it even worse. He needs to come back ASAP, in my eyes, to start off something, which it may be something I don't know, but they need a major investment. Again, the board, there's money here, there's money there. They've dusted over it. Yeah. Put Michael Beale in, and here we go. Right back to the same situation. And that's where we'll be again, with somebody like Kevin Muscat.
Yeah, it's my understanding, Colin, I was up there at the weekend, it's my understanding that they offered Souness some kind of an ambassadorial role, shaking hands about 6 times in a season. He's more than that, isn't he?
Absolutely. He's the pinnacle role. The way I can see it is, from right now, he needs to come back ASAP. Whether he will come back or not is a different matter, but where's the major investments, Jim? The board have promised the Rangers fans there's a Chinese person, there's an American person, millions and billions.
Where is it?
Where is it? That's
okay, Colin, thanks for the call. Here's Stuart Pearce.
See, if they think they're going to bring someone like Suey back into the football club, right, he's got to be integral in the appointment of the manager. There's no point in bringing a manager in and bringing Suey in.
Yeah, if you're going to bring Souness in, he's got to be part of the decision making regarding the manager. I mean, Stephen Davis is in there for the time being, but Souness around and about. I do know, Simon, there was a hush when Souness got on his feet with me on Saturday night to speak at the Walter Smith tribute dinner.
Graeme represents an era that people hark back to, and of course Graham's getting an opportunity to speak very rarely these days because he's not in the media that much, so he'll be effective when he does speak. But the point is that Graeme going up there, I don't necessarily agree that the principle of Souness going up there and not being involved in the managerial appointment would be as problematic, because Souness would create a culture that was far different in that club than the one that I think is there right now, which he would bridge the gap between what I think is a boardroom that's detached from the reality of what's required to make Rangers successful and the dugout. And I think Souness would wake them up. I mean, I spoke to him about the situation. I spoke to him about some of the conversations he had with people up at Rangers and the people that they've got involved in there, and some of the things that their outlook on the world. And I don't think Graeme was particularly enamoured Not just with the fact that it might have been a slightly watered down ambassadorial role. I think it might have been a little bit more than that. But their way of operating, the things that they think are important for Rangers, the manner in which they represent themselves, I don't think Graeme was hugely impressed.
Okay, names in the frame. Alex Cruz got the very latest. Alex, good morning. What are you hearing?
Yeah, good morning. Really interesting discussion this about the type of calibre of manager that Rangers can attract, because our understanding at talkSPORT is that Graham Potter, who was mentioned as an early candidate to take charge after the sacking of Beale, is not particularly interested in Ibrox being the next step on his managerial career. And I think that's probably a bit of a reflection of where Rangers are at this moment in time. So I think they are going to have to be a bit more creative than just as that last caller was saying, bring in a household name, because I think that's easier said than done. Kevin Muscat, you've been talking about. I know from sources close to him that he'd be very interested in speaking to Rangers. He's made a bit of a name for himself. He won the A-League with Melbourne Victory. He has done really well with Yokohama as well, led them to the Japanese title. And I think if you're a Rangers fan, you have to separate Muscat, the player, to Muscat, the manager, because we know he was very combative, very physical, probably overly physical at times in his playing days. But he's a bit of an Ange Postecoglou disciple in the way that his teams like to play football. They like to get the ball down. They're a lot more pleasing on the eye than maybe you would initially expect. And the other name that's been mentioned to me this morning is that of Pascal Janssen, who's done really well over in Holland with AZ Alkmaar, took them to the semi-finals of the Conference League last season. I think they're currently second in the Dutch league. And I know that he's being pushed by a Dutch contingent of former Rangers players, the likes of De Boer and Arthur Newman. So there are a couple of names that I'm hearing this morning.
Okay, Alex, thanks for that. Simon, when you and I were in Glasgow, one individual we met was James Bisgrove, who then was working behind the scenes in the commercial area. Now, of course, he's chief executive. He's coming in for it a bit this morning. I spoke to him very briefly on Saturday night. This was pre the Beale sacking. And Tommy, Rangers fan, is saying Bisgrove's a marketing guy. He's surely not a proper chief executive of a club like Rangers. We need a football man at the top. And again, that kind of reintroduces the talk about Souness, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is the ultimate football man.
Sure. I mean, Graham's 70 years of age now, talks about never wanting to get back into managerial situations because he doesn't recognise the game anymore to the one that he managed in. So it depends what Graham wants to do. Let's correct something. I didn't say a household name. I said someone that's capable of doing a job, because Ange Postecoglou damn straight wasn't a household name when he walked into Celtic. It's about having the wherewithal to look around. I'm pretty damn sure that no one had heard of Roberto De Zerbi a year ago, Souness included. And now people have got a different view on it. It's about making sure that you put something. You look at these personalities. You look at them. Let's have a look at them. Let's have a look at Beale. Let's have a look at Gianni Van Bronckhorst and look at them in the rounds. Both of them in the media, flakes. So what did you think you were going to get? What did you think you were going to get? Someone that flip-flops between jobs. I'm not going to go to Wolverhampton Wanderers. I'm going to stay with QPR. Oh, I'm not going to stay with QPR. I'm going to go to Rangers. What did you think you were putting in your dugout? What did you think you were putting in your dugout? When most of the players that played with Gianni Van Bronckhorst talk about him as a mild-mannered... You need leaders. I'm not talking about...
Someone that can deal with the media by the scruff of the neck.
Well, you need leaders. You need people that are going to drag people to a better level. You need combative people that are prepared to make omelettes by breaking eggs, by changing the culture, by pushing the boardroom, by changing the representation. You had people that were passive. I'm not suggesting you need to have Bulldog Drummond. I'm talking about the idea that you have people that lead, that look like leaders, because half of the battle is the perception of it. And neither one of these boys won the hearts and minds through perception, let alone what was on the bleeding pitch.
Yeah.
When you were hiring and firing at Crystal Palace, was that decision solely to you, or did you take ideas from others around you?
No, the
and do you
decision.
think that you should have had a better spectrum of advisors for you?
No, the ultimate decision was mine. But very early, after the first couple of appointments, I then pushed it out to those that were football people, i.e. specifically, explicitly football people, not people that were coming into the football industry that were learning their trade. People around me that understood, like Terry Bullivant, that had coached, that had managed, that had worked within the game, that understood the metrics of my football club, understood the personality that I was, and then went out there and did the hard work for me by going through 25 or 30 applicants, looking at them from top to bottom and bringing me 5 or 6 that are worth my time.
So do you think it's worth the modern day ownership to have that model through your experience?
Of course they will have. Of course they will have.
Well, you're suggesting that the Rangers didn't have that when they went out and got Michael Beale.
What they tend to do is listen, well, okay, necessarily make sure you've got the right people. If you've got flakes beneath you that are interviewing flakes, you're still going to get the same flake outcome, aren't you? So the bottom line is make sure you've got people that represent your values. If you're going to send your CEO to go and do something for you, make sure he understands the person that he's working for, i.e., don't put people in front of me that waste my time. Know what I am, know what I want for my football club, know what my fans want, and deliver me candidates that are worth my time. Because if I sit in a room with someone that's going to waste my time, you ain't going to waste my time for much longer after that. So you create that culture in the people that work for you.
Simon, get a train to Glasgow. That's easier said than done. Get a train to Glasgow. Get up there and sort it out.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.